Can the Arizona desert save the global economy from a total systemic collapse? While you listen to these words, a silent migration is taking place. Thousands of highly specialized Taiwanese engineers are landing in Phoenix, Arizona. They are not tourists. They are the vanguard of the most expensive and risky industrial experiment in American history. Their mission: to replicate the miracle of TSMC far from the reach of Chinese ballistic missiles and the volatility of the Taiwan Strait.
Chapter 1: The Arizona Gamble and the Origin of the Miracle.
But to understand the gamble, we must understand what is being moved. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC, is the sacred mountain of the digital age. Founded in 1987 by Morris Chang, it pioneered a business model that changed the world: the pure-play foundry. Unlike Intel or Samsung, TSMC does not design its own chips. It only manufactures the visions of others. By vowing never to compete with its customers, TSMC became the neutral ground where Apple, Nvidia, and the Pentagon print their most sensitive secrets. This neutrality created a global monopoly of trust and a technological moat that has taken 4 decades and trillions of dollars to build. Replicating this far from its home is the ultimate test of geopolitical engineering. But as we will deconstruct today, moving the machines is not the same as moving the power. Physical infrastructure has a memory, and power nodes cannot be easily transplanted. Welcome to Silicon Node Reports. In our previous intelligence briefing, we explored how the Dutch giant ASML controls the photons. Today, we analyze who controls the physical ground where that light is weaponized into global capital. TSMC is currently building an industrial empire in the Saharan Desert, a mega project that has recently scaled beyond its initial targets. TSMC's commitment to Arizona has ballooned from its initial $65 billion to a confirmed $165 billion, with internal roadmap projections suggesting the total ecosystem valuation could reach $250 billion as the cluster reaches full maturity. This is no longer just a story about technology. It is the ultimate geopolitical plan B. It is the realization that the entire digital order, from Wall Street's high-frequency trading to the Pentagon's satellite arrays, rests on a single, fragile point of failure. However, beneath the headlines of bringing manufacturing home, there is a cold, uncomfortable truth. While TSMC is physically expanding into the United States, its brain, its soul, and its most lethal technology remain shielded on the island of Taiwan. Today, we deconstruct the anatomy of the world's most critical resource and the island fortress that refuses to let it go.
Chapter 2: The 3 Pillars and the Operational Roadmap.
The scale of the Phoenix project is staggering. TSMC is not just building a factory. It is engineering an entire ecosystem from scratch. To visualize the magnitude, one must understand that this campus, Fab 21, is designed to be a mega-fab cluster. The project is defined by 3 critical operational pillars. First, Fab 1. This facility has officially entered high-volume manufacturing. For the first time, 4 nanometer and 4 chips are being printed on American soil at scale. Internal intelligence and leaked metrics suggest a historic inflection point. The yield at Fab 1 has reached a staggering 92% in advanced trial runs. This effectively challenges the 88% average of TSMC's flagship plants in Tainan. This 4% delta is a technical triumph. It proves that when Taiwanese process discipline meets American engineering infrastructure, the result is not just replication, but optimization. For the first time, the student has outperformed the master on the most complex production line in history. Second, Fab 2. This is the heavyweight of the campus. Construction of the shell is complete. As we speak, cleanroom equipment and ASML lithography tools are being installed. Due to unprecedented demand from Apple and Nvidia, TSMC has accelerated the timeline. Mass production of 3nm and 2nm nodes is projected to begin in the second half of the decade. This facility will be the birthplace of the processors that define the post-AI era. Third, Fab 3. Ground was broken as part of the project's expansion, and it is designed for the A16 process technology. Chips so small they are measured in angstroms. This represents the absolute frontier of physics. By the end of this decade, this fab will ensure that the most advanced silicon on Earth is printed in the United States. However, for the institutional investor, there is a massive X factor: the security tax. Morris Chang has been blunt: manufacturing in the United States is at least 50% more expensive than in Taiwan. This is driven by labor costs, regulatory hurdles, and the immense energy requirements of a desert facility. While the US government has provided $6.6 billion in direct grants and $5 billion in loans via the CHIPS Act, this only covers a fraction of the operational premium. We are moving from an era of efficiency to an era of resilience, and resilience is a luxury that the markets have yet to fully price in.
Chapter 3: The Silicon Shield and the Packaging Bottleneck.
A fundamental question haunts the boardrooms of Washington. Why would Taiwan allow its greatest national treasure, its sacred mountain, to move abroad? The answer lies in the silicon shield. By law, the Taiwanese government mandates a strict technological hierarchy. TSMC must keep its most cutting-edge technology exclusively on the island. This ensures a permanent, artificial technological time lag. As Arizona masters 3nm, the clean rooms in Hsinchu already moving toward 1.4nm, A14 nodes. But there is a second, more invisible layer to this shield: advanced packaging CAOs. Making a wafer is only half the battle. To power modern AI accelerators like Nvidia's Blackwall or new architectures, multiple chips must be packaged together with high bandwidth memory. Currently, nearly 90% of this capacity remains in Taiwan. Without local packaging, the made in USA chips must still be flown back across the Pacific to be finished. To address this, TSMC has recently announced its first advanced packaging fab in Arizona, scheduled for trial runs in the coming years. However, the tethering, the logistical umbilical cord, to Asia is beginning to break much faster than anticipated. In a landmark shift for supply chain sovereignty, Apple has officially confirmed it will utilize this local Arizona packaging capacity, CAOs, for its made in USA chips, starting in 2027. This move transforms the Phoenix cluster from a mere wafer factory to a fully autonomous silicon ecosystem, significantly reducing the strategic leverage of the Taiwan Strait. While the silicon shield remains anchored in Taipei for the absolute frontier nodes, Arizona is no longer just a lifeboat. It is rapidly evolving into a secondary flagship of the digital order. For the investor, the geopolitical risk of TSMC is not eliminated by Arizona. It is merely managed. If the machines in Taiwan stop, the global GDP undergoes a cardiac arrest. The shield is not just about chips, it's about existential insurance. Taiwan understands that as long as the world, including China, needs their silicon, they are indispensable. Arizona provides the US with sovereign capacity for defense, but it does not decouple the global economy from the Taiwan Strait.
Chapter 4: The Anatomy of Dependence and the Intel Threat.
To understand TSMC's moat, one must look beyond the machines, the architecture of modern capital, the web of absolute dependencies. NVIDIA, the undisputed engine of the AI revolution, could not deliver its roadmap without TSMC's manufacturing prowess. When Jensen Huang speaks of sovereign AI, he's talking about software, but that software lives on Taiwanese silicon. However, for the first time in a decade, the Silicon Fortress faces a credible internal challenger, Intel Foundry. Under their IDM 2.0 strategy, Intel is betting billions on its 18A node, attempting to leapfrog TSMC by being the first to adopt high-NA EUV machines at scale. The battle for process supremacy is currently the most expensive arms race in history, and as it intensifies, the landscape of dependence is also shifting. To hedge against any single point of failure, NVIDIA secured a strategic $5 billion capacity reservation agreement with Intel Foundry as a critical structural hedge, while TSMC remains the undisputed king of yield and performance. The market is no longer betting on a solo act. Intel has emerged as the sovereign backup, a plan C that ensures the AI revolution continues even if the Pacific logistics are disrupted. But TSMC has a psychological moat that Intel cannot easily replicate: the foundry culture. Intel is a competitor to its own customers. It designs its own chips. TSMC, as a pure-play foundry, never competes with its clients. This neutrality is why Apple, NVIDIA, and AMD share their most sensitive designs with TSMC. Replicating this trust in Arizona is a monumental task. Furthermore, the supply chain moat is nearly impossible to clone. There are over 5,000 specialized suppliers providing ultra-pure chemicals, specialized gases, and microscopic parts. In Taiwan, a part is 20 minutes away. In Arizona, it might be a 14-hour flight. This is why TSMC has forced dozens of its Taiwanese suppliers to build plants in the desert alongside them. This migration of the ecosystem is what creates the 50% cost increase, but it is the only way to ensure the yield. In the world of 2-nanometer production, a single speck of dust or a 10-minute delay in a chemical delivery can cost $20 million. Precision is not just a skill, it's a culture, and in Arizona, TSMC is attempting to transplant that culture into the American workforce.
Chapter 5: The Tariff War and the New Global Order.
As we move further into this new decade, a new variable has entered the equation: the Great Tariff Wall. With the latest trade adjustments in Washington, chips manufactured outside the United States are facing increasing scrutiny and potential duties. The financial calculus of the Phoenix Project has been fundamentally rewritten, with the implementation of the Section 230 tariff architecture, levying a 25% duty on advanced chips manufactured outside the US. The Arizona premium has vanished. Manufacturing in the desert is no longer an expensive luxury. It is a strategic tax shield. The 50% cost increase famously cited by Morris Chang, now effectively neutralized by the 25% tariff savings combined with CHIPS Act subsidies. In this new trade architecture, local manufacturing is the only path to maintaining competitive margins. This is the end of simple globalism. We have entered the era of strategic infrastructure, where the control of a single industrial node can dictate the wealth of nations. The Arizona mega-fab is not just a factory, it is a fortress of capital. For the institutional investor, the lesson is clear: follow the photons, the silicon, and the specialized labor. The companies that design the future Apple, Nvidia, Google are only as strong as the foundry that prints their reality. The Silicon Fortress is expanding its walls to the Arizona desert, but its heart remains at the center of a geopolitical storm. The future of global capital does not reside in the ephemeral clouds of software. It resides in the sterile, vibration-proof cleanrooms of Phoenix and Hsinchu. To understand the true geostrategy of tomorrow, you must stop looking at political headlines and start looking at the movement of the wafers. In the era of the great choke point, sovereignty is no longer defined by borders, but by the control of the lattice. TSMC remains the undisputed gatekeeper of human progress, and its expansion into Arizona marks the most significant architectural shift in the history of global capital. As the Silicon Fortress scales, the gap between those who understand the nodes and those who follow the headlines will only widen. At Silicon Node Reports, we will continue to monitor the yield wars and the logistical friction that will dictate the next decade of wealth. The question is no longer if the digital order will change, but who will hold the key when the gate closes. This has been a Silicon Node Intelligence briefing. Follow the money, follow the nodes. If you value this level of industrial intelligence and want to stay ahead of the disruptive trends shaping 21st century and beyond, join us.
We are Silicon Node Reports, and this was TSMC, the Silicon Fortress. Subscribe to Silicon Node Reports. Let's decode the future of the world's most critical supply chains together. Silicon Node Reports, the infrastructure of global capital.